Hello and welcome. This is Room for Scream. Now, we all know of the big major horror movies that are coming out this year that everybody is anticipating, including Maxine, A Quiet Place Day One, Nosferatu, Trap. But over on TikTok, I started this challenge where I'm watching every horror movie of 2024. And in doing this, I found a lot of hidden gems or just movies I would have overlooked otherwise. So today I want to talk about 8 lesser known horror movies that are coming out in 2024 that I think should be on everybody's radar. First up is Under Paris, which is set to release on June 5th on Netflix, and this is brought to us by Xavier Gens, who also brought us the movie Frontiers. Now, this French horror thriller, yes, it is in French, it revolves around the World Triathlon Championships that are taking place in Paris this year, and the scientists have found out that this huge, ginormous, dangerous shark is swimming deep in the river where this triathlon is taking place. And so they must do everything that they can to avoid this bloody massacre in this big city where this huge event is taking place. And I love a good shark horror film, and this seems to be filled with like tons of tense, anxiety-inducing moments just based on the trailer. So I'm really excited for this one. Second is Kill Your Lover, which is brought to us by directors Kier Seward and Alex Austin, and it's set to be released on video on demand services June 7th. This body horror flick is about this toxic relationship between Dakota and Axel, and when she tries to break things off with him, well, he starts to succumb to this poison other toxic relationship, and he starts transforming into this monstrous, contagious creature where touching him melts your skin off, and I just think this is going to be a wild ride, along with some really good practical effects and special effects makeup. Third is Wild-Eyed and Wicked, and this is set to be released on video on demand services June 11th. This will be Gordon Shoemaker Foxwood's directorial debut, and in this horror/fantasy movie, Lily Pierce has to reconnect with her estranged father and disgraced history teacher in order to learn how to battle like Middle Ages style, pretty much, in order to defeat this medieval creature that's been haunting her and her family for generations. I'm really excited to see how they're going to mesh this fantasy with horror, because I feel like that can be sometimes kind of hard to do, as well as bringing in these like medieval Middle Ages themes to it. I think it's just going to be interesting and unique. Fourth is The Devil's Bath, which drops on Shudder June 28th. This German horror movie is brought to us by the directing duo Veronica Franz and Severin Fiala, who also brought us other well-known horror gems like The Lodge and Goodnight Mommy. The official plot synopsis for this movie is in 1750 Austria, a deeply religious woman named Agnes has just married her beloved, but her mind and heart soon grow heavy as her life becomes a long list of chores and expectations. Day after day, she increasingly is trapped in a murky, lonely path leading to evil thoughts until the possibility of committing a shocking act of violence seems like the only way out of her inner prison. This movie seems like it is just going to be so eerie and disturbing, and I am seated for it. Fifth is Strange Darling, which has its theatrical release August 23rd. This is directed by J.T. Molnar and stars Willa Fitzgerald and our Scream King Kyle Gallner. Strange Darling is about a relentless predator who tracks an injured woman through the Oregon wilderness, and this woman is trying her absolute hardest to outsmart her attacker, but she's growing weaker and weaker, and he is catching up with her, and time is running out. Since its premiere at Fantastic Fest last year, this has gotten really good reviews, and it has Kyle Gallner. I'll watch anything with him, so I am stoked for this movie. Sixth is Odity, which is brought to us by director Damian McCarthy, who also brought us Caveat. Now, Odity doesn't have an official release date yet, but it is supposed to come out this summer 2024 on Shudder, which is kind of wild to think about because it doesn't have an official poster yet or an official trailer yet, so I don't know. But Odity is about a blind medium who uncovers the truth behind her sister's death with the help of this very creepy wooden mannequin. Now, I do have a confession to make. I did see this earlier this year, or I guess last month, April, at the Overlook Film Festival. I'm just honestly really excited for it to come out, to watch it again and again and again, and have everybody else watch it because it is seriously that good. It's very creepy. It's just a classic horror movie. Now, the next two aren't necessarily lesser known, but they're just more so now being talked about now that we have more information on them and everything. I'm sure you might have heard of them, but who knows, maybe you haven't. Seventh is Shelby Oaks, which is brought to us by YouTube personality Chris Stuckman. This will be his first official debut feature film, and he recently teamed up with Mike Flanagan, who will be the executive producer on this. So Shelby Oaks is about Mia's desperate attempt to find her missing sister, Riley, after Riley disappeared in the last tape of this paranormal investigator group called the Paranormal Paranoids. And as Mia's obsession grows with finding her sister, she begins to suspect that the imaginary demon from her sister's childhood may not have been so imaginary. And we don't really have a trailer on this. We don't even have an official release date on this, but it did just get announced that it will be having its world premiere at Fantasia Film Festival. So I'm hoping that a nationwide release will happen soon after. Fingers crossed. And also congrats, Chris Stuckman. And eighth is Witchboard, which is brought to us by director Chuck Russell, who also brought us Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, and The Blob. This is another movie that we don't have an official release date for, other than that it's going to be released 2024, but it also has its world premiere at Fantasia Film Festival. This is the reimagining of the 80s cult classic horror movie, Witchboard. But in this movie, we follow Emily and her fiance Christian, who discover a mysterious Wiccan artifact, and a darkness descends over Emily as she becomes obsessed with the board's power. So her fiance seeks the help of a mysterious occult expert who's hiding secrets of his own. I always love a really good reimagining, especially if it just adds so much more to the story or just a new take on it, and it takes place in New Orleans, so it's bound to be extra spooky. Luckily, a lot of these horror movies have release dates coming up in the very near future, so I will keep you all updated with reviews on them, as well as release dates for the ones that don't have official release dates yet. With this Watching Every Horror Movie of 2024 challenge that I'm doing over on TikTok, I'm almost at my 100 movie mark, so I am finding myself wanting to talk about horror movies or recommendations just in longer form content that I can do on TikTok, which is why this is my first YouTube video. So be sure to subscribe to keep up with all things horror movie related, and be sure to drop a comment below of which horror movie that you are mostly excited for coming out in 2024, and I'll see you next time.